Welcome everyone. Welcome. I'm Alexandria Nicole, and we are going to jump into normalizing conversations today. So make sure that you like, you share, and if you don't follow me, okay? Follow me. And we're gonna jump right into it. Disclaimer before we do, I love church. I still attend church. My goal here today is not to tear down or bring down. My goal today is to speak truth and to hopefully help keep those that consider themselves leaders, that consider themselves above reproach, accountable for their actions. That is it, okay? Well, there was a guy that I met when I started going to this particular church. He sung on the worship team, and he was just like in love with the vocals. Of course, I developed a crush, and we ended up confessing how we felt about each other, and boom, now we're talking. Now, I'm giving you guys backstory so you can have understanding of the traumatic experience. So this part isn't the traumatic part, but I'm giving backstory so you can have understanding. So anyways, we get to talking. We are building this relationship. He hasn't asked me to like be his girlfriend yet, but he did ask me about how do I feel about marriage? And I'm like, young. I'm 20 at this time. I'm 30 now, okay? But I'm like 20, 21 at this time, I believe. Or I might be 19, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about marriage. I'm young. I'm in my second semester of college, or maybe it was my third. I don't know, but maybe a month later, my time could be very, very off. But I want to say maybe a month or two later, we're doing our thing. He tells me he doesn't want me to bring him lunch that day. He'll come by for dinner. He comes by for dinner this time. He eats the dinner. We have a great time as he's eating. And before he tells me he has to leave. And before he leaves, he says, how would you feel if I told you that I have a girlfriend? Is this a joke? Is this a joke, sir? Is this a joke? And he says, no. It's Dracula. I'm dating Dracula now. He left. I didn't talk to him after that for a while. Started dating one of my best friends, Markel. We'll call him Markel. Started dating Markel, and it was cool. Didn't really talk to James. Months passed by. I'm dating Markel. I'm thinking if I date Markel, this is gonna help me feel better. If I date Markel, this is gonna help me get over James. If I'm dating Markel, I can move on faster. Just very immature thinking. I was young, but I thought it was gonna work. Time goes by. I'm thinking, okay, time goes by. I feel safe enough to have conversation with you again. Maybe we can just be friends. Our conversations at church turn into conversations on the phone and text messages. And that was that. But it was still something. Once we got back talking, we were talking at least 2-3 times out of the week outside of like seeing each other at church. And we served in like every area together at church. Not because we did that on purpose. It just, the church was small at the time. And so it was like, you're doing everything. You know what I mean? I see him on Sunday and we sing. He doesn't really talk to me that much. I'm thinking, well, maybe he's just in a funk because I didn't do anything wrong. Out to eat. Mind you, all of this happened and I'm still with Markel, okay? So I take ownership for my actions, for sure. I take ownership for my actions. But this is just to tell you about my traumatic experience, okay? So I'm scrolling on Facebook and I see a video of him singing to Dracula, okay? James is singing to Dracula and he proposes to her. So we had these internships at the time. I was the first class of the internship, and I believe this was the second class. And after church, we were setting up for an event because that's kind of what we did. And that day, the event was their wedding. Once I figured it out, had a humongous panic attack, and I left. I went home. After that, I did not talk to him. Time goes by. I'm trying to work through things with Markel, which was my boyfriend at the time. We're talking about marriage. And because we're talking about marriage, I'm looking deep within myself and I'm realizing, should I get married? Because I still have these feelings for James. We begin to go to premarital counseling, and he still proposes to me. So now I'm engaged, okay? Now I'm engaged, planning a wedding. I get a call from my pastor at the time. So he calls. I'm at work. I miss his call. So as I'm leaving work, I see he calls, and I'm like, that's weird. He never calls me for anything during the week. Like, this is interesting. So when I got home, I called him while I was in the car, and he definitely was just kind of like, you know, hey, what's going on? Just wanted to check in because James has admitted that he is in love with you, and he no longer wants to be married to Dracula, and just kind of wanted to understand the dynamics of you and James's relationship. This is when the trauma begins, okay? Yes, I was hurt by James from his actions, but this is truly when the trauma sets in. I'm still responsible for my actions. I still take complete responsibility for my part in this, but this is when the trauma begins. I did let him know, like, hey, this is what's been going on. This is what's happened, but I haven't spoken to him since his wedding day. Like, I don't even look his direction. I've already been talking to Markel about my feelings, trying to work these things through. And I'm thinking I can say these things because you are my pastor and I can trust you with these things and you can help me through these things. Well, that's not what happened. What ends up happening is he's like, okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. See you Sunday. Go to church. I'm supposed to be leading a song. But I get to the church and Alexander is there. Pastor Alexander is there early, which he's usually not, but he's there. He asks me to come to the side real quick. I go to the side and he was like, I just don't think that we're going to have you serve until we can kind of figure out what's going on between you and James and Dracula. And I'm flabbergasted because I'm like, nothing is happening with James and Dracula and I. Now, again, remember, I'm timid. I'm not really saying anything. I'm just like, okay, I believe you have my best interest at heart, so maybe this is to help in the long run. Here we are. I don't get to sing. A week passes by. I end up getting called in for a meeting. In the meeting, it was like they were trying to pump and pry me to say that something had to happen in order for this man to feel this way. There's just no way, like these are the words that they're saying, there's just no way that he could want to, he would want to leave his wife if there's not like anything like bad going on. And I'm just like, but there's not. Again, I don't know what to do. James ends up trying to contact me again. This time I actually talked to him and I said, you need to fix this. You need to make this right because these people, our community thinks that I did something wrong. What about you? Like, what? We did nothing. He said he was going to handle it. I end up getting pulled into the office again. Told I had to do like counseling and all these different things to make it right. Apologize to Dracula for whatever. And because clearly it was like I didn't do anything wrong. For what? Loving him? I don't know. But anyways, I have to apologize to Dracula. I have to jump through all these hoops. Blah, blah, blah. And I do them because again, I'm very timid at the time. I'm very passive and not standing up for myself, okay? One thing I forgot to mention was that I'm walking around the church still trying to be happy, excited, strong. People, leadership, because I don't want to make it like it was just random people. It was leadership. People in leadership were coming up to me, laying their hands on me, on my head, on my stomach, praying loudly, pushing me down, praying the spirit of adultery off of me, praying the spirit of Jezebel off of me, saying that I'm a homewrecker, but God is going to deliver me. All these different things. This is happening. I'm going to this producer. I'm depressed. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do because I don't know how to express how I feel. So I'm going to this producer. I'm making music. I'm recording the lead and the BGVs, and he takes advantage of me. He rapes me. And for a while, I didn't think it was rape because the church I was attending at the time did not call it that. They did not call it that. I had already started my counseling sessions with one of the pastors at the church. And when I went, it was Sunday after church is when I would have them. So that Sunday after church, it happened. So let's say it happened on a Wednesday or a Thursday. So that's following Sunday. I get out of church. I'm just sitting there because I can't serve or do anything. I'm sitting there. I go to my counseling session, and the first thing she says when we're in my counseling session is, let's call him Ryan. Ryan told the leadership team that you came on to him, and we just want to know if you had sex with him or not. That's all we want to know. We don't want to know details. We don't want to know what happened. We just want to know, did you do this? Did you guys do this, or did you not? Again, I'm a timid woman. Don't know how to stand up for myself. Don't know how to speak for myself. I do, but I'm afraid to. Because I want to please these people. So I tell them, yes, it happened, but not in the way that you think. She said, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. You want to know what happens? I got punished. I got punished for it. So looking back, of course, I'm like, as a leader, I feel like if you really feel like I'm out here just sleeping around with married men, then you would think that at some point you would say, hey, something's really going on with her. Let's see how we can truly care for her, because there's just so much happening. I still got punished for that. I got the blame for it. I got in trouble for being around him. They had me be under leaders that didn't care for me. They would sit here and tell me, your clothes is too tight. Your hair, you're doing things to entice him. You're doing things to entice him. I was the problem. So for years, I'm walking on eggshells. For years, I feel like I'm having to walk on pins and needles. And it got to a point where I felt like I had to prove myself to these people. So here I am trying to prove that I am not who they've called me to be. However, after all this has happened, James is still contacting me. James is still calling me. James is still texting me. I ignored James as long as I could. Dracula, his wife, we ended up having a meeting before any of that took place. We ended up having a meeting. I forgot to mention that. And so we have this meeting, and she's going in. I mean, being absolutely disrespectful, saying she's gonna, if she could, she would hurt me. She would tear up my belongings, my property. She would go and keep my car and bust my windows and catch my house on fire, all these different things. I was sitting there trying to defend myself, and one of the pastors told me, no, you have to sit here and listen to what she is saying. It's the least you can do is sit here and listen to what it is that she is saying. It got to the point I couldn't take it no more. So I grabbed my stuff and I told her she's being absolutely difficult. I don't have to listen to this. Listen, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have even talked to this man if I knew that this is what it was going to come to. Y'all keep accusing me of things that I am not. I'm out of here. I looked at my counselor. I said, can I go? She said, yes. I got my stuff. I've never wrecked a home. I've never, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't out here doing all these things that they have thought that I've done. They thought that I slept with two married men. One I did not sleep with, and the other one raped me. So they finally decide to let me sing on the worship team months later. We're going to have to sit you down off the worship team because someone came to us and told us that you are currently sleeping with a married man again. Mind you, I first off wasn't sleeping with anyone. I was actually celibate for quite some time. But then on top of that, I was sick all the time. It was the weekend before my hysterectomy. So it's like you don't know anything that's going on with my body to know like what I'm out here doing. But to assume, like you didn't ask any questions. You assumed that I'm again. I was livid, y'all. I blew up on her. I'm smiling right now. It's just a coping mechanism, but I also am healing through this. But angry. So I gave her some choice words. I asked her who told her that. She wouldn't tell me. I cried all the way home. And they were talking about my now boyfriend. He was married, went through a divorce. Somehow got word that he was still married, blah, 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 blah. And I tried to set him up with him, but I'm the one that's messing around with him. All these different things. I go home, I call him, and I'm like, you need to fix this. He has no idea what I'm talking about. You need to fix this, and you need to fix it now. I'm cussing him out, telling him I don't ever want to talk to him again, ever want to work with him again, nothing. He was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So he did his due diligence. He went up there, he fixed it. So from that point on, I've already been walking on eggshells, but now I really feel the same energy I felt with James. It's the same energy I feel once again times 10, because it's like a double whammy. In the moment, I didn't realize it, but my identity was in that ministry. My identity was in proving who I am to them. My identity was in trying to show them that I'm capable of being a worship leader, that I'm capable of singing, I'm capable of serving at my best, even when y'all want to run me down. I'm capable of showing you that I'm not a home wrecker. I'm capable of showing you that I'm not an adulterer. I'm capable of showing you like I am not a Jezebel. All these different things. And I got tired, y'all. Didn't realize how much that particular experience was traumatizing. I just didn't realize it. November of 2022, y'all. Him and his wife are on stage telling the story again, but not telling it truthfully. Now, mind you, years and years, every time his wife would get up and preach, she would always bring up the story, and she would always say, the first year of our marriage, my husband was unfaithful. But that's not the truth. The first year of your marriage, your husband told you how he felt. And it infuriated me because I already have to relive this over and over. Now, the church has grown to a degree. And so, of course, like, it has a huge influence on the world. So those that watch all over the world have no idea who he's talking about. But in Tulsa, you have an idea who they are talking about. Me. I got angry. I cried and cried and cried. And I heard God say, it is time to tell your story. I feel like because it has debilitated my mental, I have panic attacks. My anxiety is always like out of the roof. I can't keep friendships. I've missed opportunities like with my band and stuff like that because of this, okay? So it has ruined my life in a very great manner. What I've done is I've reached out to the church 3 times. I wanted to have a conversation with them to tell them my story, because in that moment, I did not tell them anything. I didn't feel like I had to, because I didn't feel like I could. I didn't feel like I could say anything. And then even through it, they would tell me, don't talk to anybody about it. You go through this, things will be fine on the other side. And it hasn't been. Y'all, let these people continue to tell their story, not understanding the effect that it has had on someone else. So anyways, I've reached out to the church 3 times. No response. Cool. And I've told them what it is that I want to talk to them about. Nothing. People in the church need to be held accountable for their actions. Not every church is like this, okay? Like I said at the beginning of this, I still go to a church. I still serve at a church. I still love God wholeheartedly. But the damage that has been done needs to be accounted for. Like, you need to be held accountable for what you've done. I've had people tell me that they had traumatic experiences under their care. They had to sign NDAs. I've never signed one, but they had to sign an NDA, and they tried to tell their story not realizing what they signed. And now they have been like given cease and desist letters, like, hey, we're going to sue you if you continue to talk about this because you signed this and you agreed to this. Something has to change. And that is why I'm talking about this, because there are way too many leaders, deacons, ministers, pastors that get away with things, right? They're supposed to be held to a higher standard. And my thing is this: I am very aware that the church Even those that are in leadership are leaders that are human, that they have their own traumas, that have their own things that they're walking through. I understand it all. I get it. And I have grace for that when you acknowledge your weaknesses. We believe that when we're in these roles, we are above reproach. We are above correction. That's not the case. Now you have this this humongous ministry, and there's no telling how many more people this is happening to. And that's why each week I tell you, if you have an experience, DM me. If you don't feel comfortable or if you don't have the ability to say it, and it doesn't have to be through what I've been through. I served at that church for almost 10 years of my life. I mean, literally gave my life to them, thinking I'm giving my life to God. All I'm saying is it is our job to keep people accountable. How? By speaking up. I was silenced, and then after that, I chose to be silent because I felt like that's what was going to resolve this. But now I'm dealing with mental health issues, literal trauma to my body because of the things that have happened and how it's affected me. Thinking that my self-worth was non-existent, thinking that I had to prove my entire being to people that don't give two. Trauma doesn't just happen outside of the church. It happens within. And then we're upset. We feel like the church is failing. We were upset that so many people are far from God and not wanting to be with God, because you have so many people that have dealt with the traumatic experiences within the church and nobody's dealing with them. The only reason why I didn't say anything is because when I was 12, 13 years old and I tried, that woman looked at me and said, things like this would not happen to you if you didn't look the way that you looked. If you weren't pretty, that's not a solution. I did not feel like I could speak because when I was going through the traumatic experience of being called an adulterer, a Jezebel, a homewrecker, and people putting their hands on me and saying they're going to pray this demon out of me, leading me to believe that this is the type of person that I am and I have to prove that I'm not when I never was this person in the first place, that's traumatic. Why are you not being held accountable for that? You should be held accountable for condoning a rapist. You should be held accountable for the manipulation and the control. There's so many things that people within the church should be held accountable for. I'm not saying jail time. I'm not saying your church should be shut down, but you need to be held accountable for your actions and make them right. But I pray that this begins to jog the muscle of boldness in you so that you can speak up for what has happened to you. I pray that this jogs the notion in you to speak up to a point that change can happen. Because I believe that we're in a time where God wants to reconstruct the church, and it will be literally based on love as it should be. So anyways, I pray that all of this helps you speak up and tell your story so that we can provoke change within the church. It's time. It's time. I'm going to continue to email them and reach out to them because I want to make things right for myself. I want to be able to move on. I want to be able to find freedom and walk in my freedom. All I want them to do is quit getting up there and not telling the story. I have no issue with anyone getting up there and telling their testimony, especially if I'm a part of it. I'll go up there and tell it myself. I have no problem with it. If they want to add me to the roster, I will go and do it. But if you're going to do it, tell the truth. Be honest and own up to your own mistakes. I hope that this helps you to be bold and say, hey, me too. Even if it's with the same ministry. If you have an idea of who I'm talking about and it's the same ministry, hey, me too. Even if it happened to you 20 years ago, hey, me too. Because it's something that we need to talk about. Church hurt, I hate that we even call it that, but it is really true manipulation and control. The same thing that can happen at a job, the same thing that can happen in your household, with people you love, with friends, it happens within the church too. And it's continued to be swept under the rug. And in order for the church to really do what it's designed to do, we gotta talk about these beasts, these demons, these monsters. You feel me?